What if I told you most cities don't flood because of rivers or the sea, but because of roads, houses and sidewalks? The solution? It's soft, green and shaped like a sponge. From Europe to Asia to North America, cities are flooding more often, harder and faster than ever. Climate change is supercharging rainfall, but our cities? They aren't ready. Concrete streets, rooftops and parking lots, they sealed the ground and send water rushing straight into our streets. Our infrastructure? It simply can't keep up. But here's the twist. Even without climate change, many cities would still flood. We have erased nature's sponge, the soil, wetlands, and vegetation that used to soak up nature's fury. When I researched my thesis on urban water management, I realized just how much we have lost. Water used to sink in, feed plants, or slowly flow through wetlands. Now, it crashes against hard surfaces and floods basements. This isn't just a coastal problem. It's happening in suburbs, mountain towns, and cities of all sizes. To stop drowning, we need to think like nature. But what happens when we don't? Let me show you the devastating floods that happened in Europe. In July 2021, a quiet river valley in western Germany faced the unthinkable. The Ahr Valley is a steep catchment area. Rainwater from the surrounding areas all funnels down through one narrow corridor. Normally, this isn't a problem. But then came the rain. In just 24 hours, 90 liters per square meter fell. That's more than a month's worth of rain in a single area. The storm? It turned into a flash flood. Streets turned into rivers. Entire neighborhoods disappeared underwater. Residents said it felt like a tsunami. There were no sirens, no warnings, just a wall of water. But here's the thing. The rain alone didn't cause this. Water that would normally soak into the ground was funneled through the landscape towards a single choke point. Floodplains that once gave the river room to expand were built over, and historic side channels were sealed off. The river had nowhere to go, nowhere except through the homes and the streets. With the soil sealed under concrete, water couldn't soak in. It rushed downhill, fast. Drains overflowed, roads collapsed, and the pressure burst through buildings from underneath. 134 lives were lost. Thousands more were displaced. And there were 30 billion in damages, all in a region that never expected something like this. This wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a failure of design. A failure to work with the water instead of against it. So, what if we brought the sponge back? What would a city look like if it worked with the water? Well, to create a city that works with water, we need to go back to a system that's handled water for millions of years, far longer than we have been designing our cities. Because nature, it doesn't flood like our streets does. It absorbs, it slows, and it filters. What if our cities could do the same? That's the idea behind sponge cities. This isn't just about clean technology, it's about rethinking space and building infrastructure that's ready for the future. Permeable surfaces let rain soak into the ground instead of rushing into the streets. Green roofs capture and hold water where it falls, slowing down the rain and cooling the city down. Rain gardens and bioswales slow, clean, and guide water naturally, even in dense neighborhoods. In side-by-side storms, sponge cities don't just survive, they bounce back faster with less damage. This is climate resilient infrastructure and a key part of sustainable development. Have you already seen some of these sponge city principles being used in your city? Let me know in the comments. But for now, let us explore the difference that this concept has already made. The sponge city concept might sound ambitious, rethinking how we build cities around water. But it's already happening, and leading the way is China. In 2015, China launched the Sponge City initiative, aiming to redesign cities so they could absorb 70% of rainwater naturally. Over 30 pilot cities joined in. Wuhan alone added 38 square kilometers of sponge zones, and Shenzhen, it avoided more than 190 million euros in flood damage between 2016 and 2020 alone. In high-risk areas, flood volumes dropped by up to 60%. This wasn't just about clean roofs. They restored wetlands, built detention parks, and even redesigned roads to guide stormwater safely through the city. But China isn't the only one rethinking water. Cities around the world are following with their own creative solutions. Rotterdam's water plazas turns everyday parks into flood water storages. When it's dry, kids can play there, and when there's a storm, water can be stored. In Singapore, a 2.7-kilometer concrete drain was transformed into a living urban park. Flooding went down, temperatures dropped, and residents got a clean, vibrant space right in the heart of the city. Philadelphia took a bottom-up approach. Over 1,100 projects were installed, not with mega projects, but with sidewalks, tree trenches, and community rain gardens. The key was scale. People could see it, take part, and adapt it, block by block. What these cities proved is that it's not just green tech that matters. It's how cities are designed to slow, store, and share space with water. If these cities can do it, what's stopping ours? If you are curious about building cities that can truly adapt, that live with nature and not against it, hit that subscribe button. Let's build a sustainable tomorrow together. But for now, let's focus on something else. Big change doesn't only come from up above. What can we do ourselves to make a difference? Well, it starts closer than you think, sometimes right under your feet. Because rethinking cities often starts with rethinking your own street. Let's take your rooftop. Green rooftops can absorb 50 to 90% of rainfall, cool down your building, and create space for nature. Even a few potted plants on your balcony can make a difference. Rain barrels can capture water for reuse, for your garden, trees, or even just cleaning. Simple, low cost, and surprisingly effective. And less pavement means more absorption. Replacing that extra slab of concrete with grass or a garden doesn't just look nicer, it helps your street and yourself breathe. But real change, it scales, and you don't need to be an architect to reshape your neighborhood. Push for clean streets designed to soak up water, cool the air, and invite life back into public spaces. In many cities, residents helped install curbside gardens or even depave unused lots. Change doesn't always come from big projects. It often starts with big questions. Why not trees here? Why not soil instead of asphalt? Neighborhoods that go green don't just flood less. They are cooler in the summer, cleaner after storms, and often they are more connected. These changes create space, not just for water, but for people. That's the hidden power of sponge thinking. It brings us together. But beyond even our blocks and streets, change starts with how we see the world around us. Next time it rains, look around you. Where does the water go? Where could it go? We can't change what we don't talk about. Ask questions, get curious. What's your city doing for the next flood? More importantly, what isn't it doing? A sponge city isn't a distant vision. It starts on your street, on your rooftop, with people like you. Because in the end, a sponge city isn't just a policy, it's a future we build together. This was part 2 of our mini-series exploring the urban climate crisis and how cities worldwide are adapting to it. But not every solution we hear about is as solid as it sounds. Some ideas get repeated so often, we often forget to ask if it actually works. And chasing the wrong idea, it can cost us time, money, and resilience. Next week, we are unpacking a hidden lie about climate resilient cities. and why getting this wrong might be the key we need for our future. Subscribe if you haven't already, and join me as we dig into what makes a city truly future-proof. And if you are curious about how cities worldwide are already rising to the challenge, check out the playlist I've put together with global case studies and ideas worth sharing. Together we can engineer a sustainable tomorrow, one step at a time. Thank you for watching.